Hi, sixth graders. We are looking at page 15 in our data books. Our title is Variable Data. So we're going to talk about what makes a question or what makes data variable or not variable. So the first thing is we're going to fill in this sheet that you should already have glued in. Pretty easy, just kind of filling in the blank as we go. So our first blank, it says blank, the spread of values in a set of data. This is called variation. So when we have variation in our data, when we collect it, that's kind of what makes our spread, right? Because, if we were asking people how many people they have in their family, some people are only going to say, I have 2 or 3 people. Some people might say, whoa, I got a bunch of brothers and sisters. I have like 10. So that makes our spread bigger. Now, data with variability can be summarized with a range. And we know that range is the same thing as spread, so they're kind of the same. Now, data without variability can be summarized with a single value. So if you're asking a question that only has one possible answer to it, or everybody would answer it the same with one value, then that doesn't have any variability. It has no range or spread because it would just be one value. So now we're talking about whether it's statistical or not. So a statistical, whoa, that S was messed up. Statistical question is a question that has many different or variable answers. So statistical questions are the same thing as variable data. It has a variable answer. So now down here we're looking at an example. It says the ages of children attending the flag football game are as follows. I don't know why this had a little typo here. So at a flag football game, they took all of these ages and wrote them down from the kids that were there. So now thinking about this topic and this scenario, we're trying to think of a question that we could ask that would have variation to it, and a question that we would ask that wouldn't have any variation. The answer would be the same no matter what we asked them. So the first thing is we see there are all different types of ages. So if we asked those kids their age, would they all have different answers? Yes, they would, because we see there's kids that are 2 years old all the way to 11 and 12 years old. So a good question, we see it by looking at the data that they've taken, is if we ask them, what is your age or how old are you? We would have a variation of answers. Now on the opposite end of this, think of a question that you could ask pertaining to these kids that the answer, there would be only one answer. There's no variation in it. So I'm trying to think, for instance, if you asked how many total kids are there at this game? Well, we already took all their ages, and so if we added all these up, no matter who you asked, there are still the same number of kids at that game. So a question that wouldn't have variation would be, how many kids are there? Because our answer should be the same if we're counting correctly, no matter who you ask. So how many kids are there? That would only have one answer. We couldn't find data on this or graph it or anything because we don't have a variation in our answer. So now down below here, just a little bit of a note to add to that. So we have variable data is an answer that can vary, and not variable, the answer will be the same no matter who you ask, as long as they're counting right. We're going to add the last little pieces on after this. It's kind of like a sort. We're going to add those in so you have some examples to look at, and then we will be ready to go for variable data.